We have some surprising news on the NHL waivers today from the Anaheim Ducks. The New Jersey Devils have a new captain. There's another interesting KHL player looking to make the jump to North America, and his longtime NHL coach Mike Babcock ready to make his coaching return. We'll discuss all the latest news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, we have a variety of things to discuss today. Let's kick things off with the NHL waiver wire news. The Anaheim Ducks have placed longtime NHL veteran center iceman Adam Henrique on NHL waivers. It means a bit of a surprise. We know he's not having a great season by any means, but certainly not somebody we suspected would be on waivers here anytime soon. I mean, he's 31 years old, coming off a 26-goal season last year. He's been a fairly productive, pretty steady middle six center iceman for majority of his career between his time with the Devils and during his time in California with the Anaheim Ducks. Of course, he's in the second year of a 5-year contract extension that he signed with Anaheim, paying him $5.875 million. So clearly you would think that he'd be a player that the Anaheim Ducks are interested in trading. I would suspect they've already had some kind of exploratory trade talks, maybe not finding any takers. Clearly that salary is going to be a problem for a lot of teams that consider taking on, and where he still has 3 years left. I mean, that's going to be problematic for most teams to take on without Anaheim retaining a big chunk of that, and they're probably not real crazy about doing that either. Personally, I would say more than likely here that he probably clears given how much he makes. I mean, he's an interesting player though. I mean, he's, like I said, he's only got 4 points in I believe 16 games this year, so not a good start, but he's certainly a player that I think for the right price teams would certainly take a flyer on and give a chance to, but it's going to prove difficult given how much money he's earning. But there's lots of teams out there looking. You just never know, I guess. Sometimes the waiver wire can be a very interesting place where we see transactions that we're not expecting. But we'll find out at noon Eastern time tomorrow if Adam Henrique will remain with the Anaheim Ducks. And if so, he could be assigned to their taxi squad. They could give his spot to somebody else for more of an opportunity and kind of go from there. And of course, that does give them the roster flexibility. Once they clear waivers, they have either 10 games played or 30 days before they need it again to be reassigned. So we will see what happens with Henrique and the Anaheim Ducks. Now, as I mentioned as well, there's a very interesting KHL player, 26 years old, Damir Zhafyarov, who apparently is looking to make the jump to North America and is garnering interest from a variety of NHL teams, mostly Chicago and Detroit. According to a Russian news website who covers a lot of their KHL players, they have interesting data there to show that they feel that these two teams have indeed had conversations and are trying to make offers for the pending unrestricted free agent. His KHL contract expires at the end of April, so obviously teams are starting to get in line for his services. Currently, he's the third highest scorer in the KHL right now for the current season. Obviously, that sounds like a lot. It's over a point per game, but you have to be careful here. The KHL is an entirely different league, an entirely different level of talent. In my opinion, just because he's a top scorer there does not mean that he'll come over and make a big impact. But we have seen cases where players have made the jump, especially around his age, like Artemi Panarin's a prime example. Even look at some of the players that the Maple Leafs have brought over, like Mikheyev. Like, they're not all going to be big stars, but they could still be pretty impactful players. We know Chicago has had pretty good success with this type of thing before too, obviously. And then, Detroit has a long history of having a lot of European players and Russian players in the past too that they've worked with. So by no means does it guarantee them that they're going to sign him, but it looks as though he's pretty determined based on his reports to make the jump to North America. And obviously if they're, one of the first ones in line having conversations, and I would think there'd be teams as well he might be able to get more opportunity on as well, given the fact that Detroit's rebuilding. Chicago's a big surprise this year, though. We all expected the way the season started going through training camp, losing Kirby Dach, losing Jonathan Toews, not really having a proven goaltender either, that it was going to be really tough in Chicago. Things started slow there. But then, goalie Kevin Lankin and the rookie has been keeping them in games and giving them a chance to win. They find themselves right near the top of their division, which is probably one of the biggest pleasant surprises of the year so far. So adding a guy like that would just make the team better as well. But Chicago does have a pretty good prospect pool as well to build upon. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this guy. But like I said, a lot of the KHL scores doesn't automatically mean it's going to translate to NHL success. So if you're a fan of those teams, no reason to get too excited here yet. But he could turn out to be a useful player if he does indeed make the jump like the rumors are suggesting right now. Now, as I mentioned as well, the New Jersey Devils have themselves a new captain. They've named former first overall pick Nico Hischier the next team captain here for the Devils. So clearly is somebody who's represents himself well on the ice. He's got a long-term contract. He's known for being a pretty solid 200-foot player. Nico Hischier made his return today off the injured list and has got the C on his jersey. Just an announcement that they made via social media earlier today. So certainly, if you look at the roster, I mean, Hischier's a player that I would say would be one of their top candidates, is what I was looking at for who could be a captain there in New Jersey. But I also felt that based on a lot of their top contenders for that role being relatively young, that they could also wait a little bit. They certainly didn't need to do that, in my opinion. But head coach Lindy Ruff felt that Hischier more than deserves it and has represented himself well and leads on and off the ice well. So certainly congratulations to Nico Hischier. The Devils have themselves their next captain. And so with the fact that he's got a long-term deal, and the Devils certainly see him as being a huge part of their long-term future, he could likely hold that role for an extended period of time. So we'll see how things work out with Hischier with the C on his jersey. Hopefully it's a case of another young player taking the role and doing well with it and not putting too much pressure on himself. Now, the other news that came out here just shortly before I started to record, which was a little bit more surprising, not something we expected, but TSN's Darren Dreger has the latest scoop on Mike Babcock, of course, the former NHL coach who coached a long time for the Toronto Maple Leafs and Detroit Red Wings and Anaheim Ducks, is rumored to be making his coaching return, except it's not in the NHL. He's rumored to be going back to coach the University of Saskatchewan Huskies, obviously in the University League here in Canada. Obviously, Babcock is a well-decorated coach. You say what you want about him. I know how things ended in Toronto weren't overly pretty and some of the stories that were being told, but you know what? He's admitted as well that he's made some mistakes and is still learning and growing as a coach. So obviously, you know, he's from Saskatchewan originally as well. And that program, and the Huskies program there, has been a really good team. They've had some solid players there, a lot of regular success, but they haven't been champions in a while. So maybe that's something he can help kind of put them over the top. I would suspect that after getting back into coaching in that role, that maybe it probably wouldn't last more than a year before he probably gets another opportunity, maybe on a either World Juniors, World Championship type of stage perhaps. I don't see him being the coach for the Olympics for Team Canada. He even said himself in his interview that he did talking about everything that happened in Toronto a few weeks back that he felt somebody else should have the opportunity, and I agree with that. I mean, obviously he's won numerous gold medals, but still, the next time he coaches could end up being Team Canada, like I said, the junior team or the World Championship team. Hard to say what happens, and then I would suspect sometime in the next couple of years, as his deal with the Maple Leafs winds down, especially, that he very well could get another NHL opportunity. I think the opportunity could come again, and I think he'll be very particular with where he goes, making sure it's the right fit. He's going to want to repair his image and make sure that he goes out of that opportunity looking much better, especially just on a more personal side of things, regardless of how the team ends up doing for success-wise. But Mike Babcock making his coaching return, the university ranks in Canada, back in his home province of Saskatchewan. Certainly not something I expected. I thought maybe he'd be waiting around for eventually an NHL opportunity, which I think will come in the next year or two. But certainly, looks good for a chance for him to go work at a whole different level and work his way back up. Certainly shows that he's not afraid to put in the hard work to repair his reputation. Let me know your thoughts on what we discussed here today down in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.